at the Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference in Miami. Joining us is Marc Lakmaaker from Aurora Cannabis, one of the few companies in the industry that rarely needs an introduction. However, I will ask you to tell our viewers a little bit about the company, what you do.
Yeah, very good. I mean, it's a well-known, very well-established name, one of the largest companies in the industry, market cap of around $10 billion today. However, what I'm seeing is a lot of new interest recently, not just from retail, but also very much institutional. So I think an introduction to those people is long overdue. So Aurora, one of the largest cannabis companies in the world, depending what metric you use, maybe the biggest cannabis company in the world. Vertically integrated, that really means from pre-seed to post-sale. When I say pre-seed, we've got a strong science team that includes Anandia, which we recently acquired, who are the leaders in cannabis genetics. Jonathan Page, who's now our CSO, he led the team that first mapped the cannabis genome. So it's really about, ameliorating the cannabis plants, about developing cannabis 2.0. And when I say 2.0, there's not just one 2.0, there will be many different types of 2.0. But it's developing strains that work well in an automated environment, which obviously is very important for us because we've got the technologically most advanced facilities in the world, Aurora Sky, which is ramping up to full capacity right now. It's a beautiful facility, 800,000 square foot indoor facility with a glass roof, very high tech inside, very highly automated, low cost of production, high quality cannabis, consistent quality of cannabis. Which you can imagine if we can develop plants that thrive particularly well in that environment, and also plants that might have a shorter growth cycle, plants that might have a higher oil yield, plants that have specific terpene cannabinoid profiles that make them good for the rec market or more specific applications within the medical field. So there's lots going on there, but vertically integrated throughout the entire chain, including the design of facilities, medical research, like I said, automated production capacity going up all over the globe. Distribution, product development, global footprint. So we're everywhere. It's part of grabbing that opportunity that the cannabis industry, gives to us. On a global scale, this is a phenomenal opportunity. We're still in the very early days of it. This market is going to develop into ways that we haven't even imagined yet. Or we may have imagined them internally, and we're working towards those developments. And you'll see that coming out of the company. But there's a lot going on.
And a little scoop you can give us?
Sorry?
And a little scoop you can give us?
A little scoop. Obviously, as a public company, I can't really give too many scoops, but I think I've just given you one. And, plant
Keep
production,
your eyes open.
Development of products. This industry is not just about the cannabis flower, it's very much about those derivative products. We've got the largest product development team in the industry. We've got an exceptionally good regulatory affairs team, because it's not just about developing the product, it's actually introducing the product to the market as well. And just to give you one example, we're the only company in Canada who's allowed to sell a vape type product on the market. We're the only ones with it's called a high CBD, well, it's called Aurora Cloud. It's a CBD rich vape ready cartridge. We're the only ones able to sell this right now. So it's, not just talks to the strength of our product development team, but very much talks to our ability to actually get products into the market. And the same goes internationally. It's market access. We're in the process of completing the acquisition of Pharmacies Magistrales in Mexico. And that is a very interesting acquisition because we're talking about a market with 130 million people. And
on the verge of legalizing
they are
the use of all drugs.
Definitely there's a medical system in place now, and it looks like we're going to be the only ones who are allowed to sell THC-based products, or products with more than 1% THC in a market with 130 million people. So that's very nice. We're very pleased with that. But again, it shows how well we work with, local companies. We're increasingly the partner of choice, but also with the regulatory authorities, because obviously the Mexican authorities had to be comfortable with Aurora, which they are. Same, a much smaller market, but market like Luxembourg, we're the only ones supplying the medical system there. We are first or early mover in pretty much all of our markets. So that gives us a huge advantage that we're now leveraging, executing on, and accelerating away from the pack.
So you mentioned international markets. You just brought up your recent acquisition in Mexico. Before starting this interview, we're talking a little bit about your acquisition yet to be closed of Whistler Medical in Canada. Which other places in the world are you?
I'm not really going to single out specific markets, but obviously Europe is a very interesting market to us. We're very well represented there already, but there's more countries that are opening up and markets that start to develop, and we definitely want to be in there. So what you can expect from us is further spread of our footprint in Europe. Latin America, ICC, which we acquired last year, is kind of the hub or the foundation of our Latin American strategy.
Uruguay and Colombia, right?
Yeah, Uruguay and Colombia, but with supply arrangements outside of those countries. Exceptionally well connected. It's really the platform for us to grow in Latin America, which, as it's a market of over 600 million people, is very interesting, of course.
So, from my understanding, for instance, ICC is only one of two licensees in Uruguay, at least for the provision of pharmacies, like beyond clubs and other sorts of entities. What does this sort of almost like you own half of the market by definition? What does this mean for Aurora? And do you see any potential for growth? I mean, or is it kind of a set market in terms of
No, there's definitely growth
consumers
in Uruguay, and ICC is ramping up its production capabilities as well. But don't see ICC as just a player in Uruguay, as just a player in Colombia. The ICC, like I just said, is very much the platform for, entering the entire Latin American market. Over 600 million people. They are growing CBD-rich hemp. They're growing cannabis, THC plants, and that's for different markets. Adult consumer use in Uruguay, first country to approve that, to legalize that. There's growth there, but Uruguay in itself is not the large market in the world. So we're cognizant of that. The ICC acquisition was more that. It was really the platform for us to dominate the Latin American market.
So how does the export market look in that region? I mean, I know that Colombia has a 44% quota of the global scale now. Are they able to export already? Is it something that's happening that is expected to happen soon?
In the cooker, it's happening quite soon. ICC has got a number of supply arrangements with other countries. But in order for ICC to be able to export to Europe, for instance, their facility would have to be EU GMP certified. We own 2 of the 8 cultivation facilities in the world that are GMP certified, EU GMP certified. We own 1 of 2 distribution centers in Europe that's EU GMP certified. ICC has built the first GMP compliant lab and processing facility in Uruguay. It's a facility that can process 150,000 kilograms per year of raw material, which, depending on the concentration, can yield us up to, I believe, 15,000 kilograms of isolate per year. Obviously, once that facility is certified, we can look at using that for other markets. There's markets where EU GMP is not going to be a requirement, but sort of normal GMP might be a requirement. But it's about provenance of the product, about the quality of the product, and that's where the Aurora name comes in. And talking with international representatives, either government or other market participants, having the Aurora name in there as a company in exceptional good standing in a federally legalized system here, not here in Canada, we're in Miami right now, sorry, in Canada, That's a
back
huge,
home.
huge bonus point. And that's what made it interesting. And one of the many factors that made it interesting for ICC to team up with us. That's why it's interesting for a company like ICC to team up with us, because the Mexican authorities obviously wanted to make sure that Farmacias went, into a partnership with a reputable company, which is where we are. So those markets. Sorry, to get back to your question, those markets are still in an early stage, but they're in that early stage of starting to develop. And you see sort of the early adopters, that ramps up quite quickly, and then post that it's a matter of market development. And we've got so much data already from having operated in Canada for a number of years, our operations in other markets, that we've got a very good grip of that, and that we know what to do. And you'll see that the data, not just our data, but general medical wellness data that are are being developed all the time. We ourselves are involved in over 40 clinical trials and medical studies. And that's going to accelerate adoption of cannabis as a medical therapy globally.
So last question in relation to emerging markets. I'm curious how you feel about Brazil, given that you're making investments in other places in Latin America. Brazil is a complicated market, but it's a big market, right?
Sorry, yeah, it's a very big market. Brazil is, I believe, 180 million people. So it's another very important Latin American market. Slightly different, obviously, different language, different political system. But there are openings there, for sure. We already got some things going on in Brazil through MedRelief has done something there, I believe. ICC has done something there. So we're talking, developing. That's a very interesting opportunity. But that market, again, is at the very early stages, but expect us there.
The last question is, so at the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned Aurora's market cap stands around $10 billion. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So for industry standards, a behemoth.
Yeah.
What do you have any advice, recommendations, or lessons learned from the path, to getting to this scale for other smaller companies who dream to one day become a $10 billion
company? It's
cannabis company.
I'm not sure how much I can say because I obviously don't want to give away the recipe book. But I think there's a number of things that we've done very, very well. And that is focus on execution first and foremost. Right from the beginning, we were the first company to build a purpose-built indoor cannabis facility, which gave us high-quality products, consistent quality product. So if, as a new player, you want to make it into the market, you kind of have to figure out where I'm going to be. And to be one of those high-quality players is definitely an interesting entrance point. But it's about execution. It's also in terms of execution of dealing with your stakeholders. Patients, very, very important. And now with the adult consumer use markets, the consumers. It's more than just the quality of your product. It's also how people interact with you. Out in the medical market, we were the first to introduce same-day delivery in 2 metropolitan areas. We were the first and probably still the only company with an app, a mobile app, that enables people to order cannabis online. We invested heavily in customer care and things like that. So if you are a new starter in the industry, what is your value proposition? And execute on that. Have a very clearly defined value proposition and execute on that. What allows us to be, the biggest is because we're, widely diversified, but very strongly vertically integrated. Each part of the company is strengthening and accelerating and magnifying the other bits of the company. Science is integrated throughout. Our distribution, is very well integrated throughout the company. The different brands, we all work together, we talk together. And at the end of the day, and we talk about this a lot, what makes Aurora, and that's corporate culture. And that's very difficult to quantify, if at all possible to quantify that, but corporate culture is incredibly important. Very driven organization, lots of polymaths, but people really work together in whatever part of it's not separate silos where people don't talk to each other. Yeah. So the market development people talk to the science people, talk to the communications people, talk to the operations people, the productions people, IT, HR, everything. Then the other bit of advice that I would give is, if you're a growing company, generating growth in a market where demand is, pretty much insatiable right now, is not the hardest thing in the world if you got the right products and the right team. It's carrying that growth. So make sure that you invest in the organization, which is what we have done as well. We've grown from less than 40 people 2.5 years ago to, we're getting towards 2,000 people. And a lot of that is support, enabling that we can actually carry this growth going forward.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing. Okay. Thanks so much for joining us.
Very welcome.
And
thanks for having me.
I think we're done here.
Awesome.
Go enjoy the sun.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
Thank you.